The act of comparing ourselves. Break this habit. Masks are the new fashion statement, and how Wawa now wants you to pay.
Welcome to the Hopefulist, a daily talk show hosted by veteran broadcaster Wendy McClure. Join Wendy each day as she shares her life lessons that transformed her from perpetual pessimist to the ultimate hopefulist. The perfect morning show to get you caught up on the day's top stories while sharing insights that will lead to positive transformation and bring out the hopefulist in you. For more inspiration, visit Hopefulist.com. And now, here's your host and hopefulist, Wendy McClure.
Hello and welcome to a Thursday. It's July 9th, 2020, day 271. I've got to get on Ellen. July 9th already. You know, I heard a neighbor screaming across the lagoon to another neighbor, a very loud neighbor, saying that once July 4th hits, the summer just goes super fast. And I have to agree. July 9th already. Oh, my. Not so great weather on the way as well. Tropical storm coming tomorrow. They're saying we could see up to 4 inches of rain in tropical downpours. And winds of 50 to 60 miles per hour at the shore. Oh, yay, that's me. Can't wait for tropical force winds. It always makes me so happy. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. And then my neighbor had gone to one of the farm markets in town yesterday. I'm on the hunt for the perfect tomato. There's a farm market down south that we had been going to. And they had the most amazing tomatoes. And I remember the first time I bought them, I looked at the guy that worked there, and I said, if these taste even half as good as they look, he's like, oh, they do. They do. So I asked him where they were from, because this was probably in May, and Jersey does not have tomatoes in May. And he said they're from Canada. I was like, really? They were amazing. And then I went a couple of weeks in a row to get some more tomatoes, and then he said, oh, yeah, they're all done now. Got too hot in the hothouse, they're all dead. I'm like, okay. But I was still finding tomatoes that at least looked the same, tasted the same. And then I went over to the farmer's market right over on the island, which is much closer, the other day, and they have all Jersey tomatoes now. Have to tell you, I've not been crazy about the Jersey tomato crop the past couple of years, and maybe I've just been buying them at the wrong place. I don't know. I typically buy my tomatoes at a farm stand. I don't get them at the supermarket. But they have not been they've been kind of tasteless, to be honest with you. So I purchased some of the first Jersey tomatoes this week with fingers crossed, and it was okay. Better than years past that I remember, but not as good as the Canadian tomatoes. But my neighbor yesterday went down to the place where we were getting the Canadian tomatoes, and he grabbed me one. He said they're still not getting Jersey tomatoes yet, but these are from South Carolina, and it looks the same. So I'm going to try that today, and I will report back, because I know that you are waiting with bated breath to see how my tomatoes are going. I'm being facetious, obviously. But yeah, this is the big stuff in my life right now, is finding the perfect tomato. But pretty soon, everybody's going to have Jersey tomatoes. They're saying, though, and the reason I got on this topic is if this tropical storm comes tomorrow, it could be really bad news for the tomato and corn crop here in the Garden State. Could wash everything out. So fingers crossed that does not happen. Maybe I should put my own tomato plants under the deck, just in case. I have a house guest. Yes, my girlfriend Libby, my friend from high school, is staying with me for a couple of days. And she, if you recall, I was mentioning earlier in the week, poor thing, has her jaw wired shut. She had some surgery, had a couple of incidents, has her jaw wired shut. So it's very difficult for her to talk. So when she got here yesterday, we were talk, catching each other up on all this stuff. And then she's like, yeah, my jaw's kind of hurting now because I've been talking. And this is how she has to talk. I feel so bad for her. The poor thing can't eat. She has to drink everything through a straw. She has to blend all of her food. So we decided to watch like a movie or something, and I was asking, what she's seen, what she hasn't seen. So we decided to rewatch The Morning Show. Remember me ranting and raving about this back when we first got Apple TV? Because it is on Apple. Jennifer Aniston, Reese Witherspoon, Billy Crudup. Oh, my goodness. It's coming all back to me. Such a good show. If you have not seen The Morning Show on Apple, you must. If you have Apple TV, start watching it right now. I mean, right now. Well, after the podcast is over, of course, but right now. So good. And it's funny because it's a little bit, well, it's not a little bit. It's all about the Me Too movement. And, the topic of sexual predators at work, which seems like such a foreign topic now. We've moved on so much since the Me Too movement because we've had so many other issues with COVID and then the social injustice issues and the killing of George Floyd and then all the protests and, oh, geez, it's like 2020 is just, boy, it's been a bear. It's just been a bear. Oh, my goodness. Speaking of COVID, my friend Libby always brings me a little gift baggie for having her stay, which is not a requirement here, obviously, but always appreciate it. And in this little gift basket, she gave me a new face mask, and it's like one of the bigger ones that gives you a little bit more room, and it's cute as can be. In fact, I would say it's super cute. So I'm going to take a picture of myself in my new mask. It's a little tropical, which suits me, right? It's fabulous. I'm going to post a picture of it. So I've been using some of the homemade masks that some of the ladies in my neighborhood had made when the pandemic first hit, and they're just small. They're just not really big enough. And this one's pretty large, and it seems like it's going to be a lot more comfortable, and it's super cute. I have been waiting for my Philadelphia Eagles masks. I ordered them in May. I was told they were back ordered till July. I did notice I guess I got an email saying, masks are back in stock. Okay, where is my shipping notification then? Because I ordered 3 of those, and that's why I've kind of hesitated on buying, other masks. I knew these were coming, and I have enough to get me through. I hate wearing them, but this is going to be good now because this is a good one. So hopefully I'll get my Eagles mask soon, and I have this one, and I'll be able to color coordinate with my outfit because that's, again, the new fashion statement. Wawa, our little convenience store / gas station in the Northeast and the Southeast as well. It's kind of the middle of the country that misses out on Wawa and, the rest. They're kind of like along the coasts. They're now asking for people to use credit, debit, or exact change. I guess, again, trying to battle the resurgence of COVID. They would prefer people to use their credit, debit, or exact change. I don't carry cash on me, so this actually, I don't go to Wawa that much anymore, honestly. Now that, the whole pandemic has broken out, I just have learned to limit my outings. But I do almost always use my debit card, and I always feel like people are like, oh, because it takes like 5 extra seconds to use a debit card than it does for using money. So I guess they're worried about their employees. They don't want them handling, the employees are still going to have to handle the money. But I guess maybe this way you don't have to give back as much money. We'll see how it works out. People aren't real good at taking orders. It seems to be a real issue these days. Don't tell me what to do. Don't do it. People very much up in arms about, I don't know, just about everything these days. So I wanted to hear from you, topic-wise, on who your favorite comedian is. And apparently I am very, very out of the loop when it comes to comedians, because I was going to say Ellen. She did a stand-up, I think it it was the beginning of last year. So funny, still just so funny. But most of these people I've never even heard of. It's kind of crazy. Okay, so I've heard of some of these people, but not a lot of them. Jim Gaffigan was mentioned a number of times. I have heard of Jim Gaffigan, but I have not ever watched or listened to him. Corinne says Jeff Dunham. I have seen him. He's the one with the puppet. I forget his name. Libby says Bill Burr. Not familiar with him. Beverly says Sebastian Maniscalco. Never heard of him. Jennifer says one that doesn't talk about politics. That's hard to find these days. It's so true. Dawn says the dearly departed John Pinette. Nope, doesn't ring a bell. Diane says Joe Rogan and Amy Schumer. Is Joe Rogan a comedian? I never thought of him as a comedian. But I know he has one of the, highest rated, most downloaded podcasts ever. Amy Schumer's funny. I've seen some of her stand up. Kevin says Pat Cooper. We've got John Mulaney, which kind of rings a bell, but again, never seen him. Lauren says Steve Martin. Another one for John Mulaney. Who else? Conan. His podcast is great. Jay says, my daughter is hysterical. I like that. Michelle says, I don't know if I have a favorite, but the first one I ever saw live was Jay Leno. He was a tough act to follow. It's funny because my friend Libby is here visiting, and she introduced me to Aunt Mary Pat, who does these videos. And she's from the Philadelphia area. She is actually a he, and she dresses. Look, you just have to watch. you just have to watch. He calls himself Aunt Mary Pat. Very clearly a man. Doesn't try to change his voice. Has a beard. Very funny stuff. One of my favorite videos from him was last Labor Day. And it started out with him saying hi to his neighbors and how he was going to come over in a minute to have a drink. And he's like, starts talking to the camera. I know. What am I doing talking to that bee over next door? I hate her. I complain about her all the time. Well, I'm being nice I'm going to give you 2 words. Shore house. He's like, it's Labor Day weekend. Everybody's leaving the city. I've got to leave the city too. Really funny stuff. So I would just Google or YouTube Aunt Mary Pat. You will find a bevy of videos to choose from. And I'm pretty sure that she does stand up in spots as well. Moving on to today's blog post, the danger of comparison. The definition of compare is to estimate, measure, or note the similarity or dissimilarity between. Comparing is likely one of the fastest ways to feel inferior and unhappy with what you have. We all do it all the time, and it is so detrimental to our well-being. Our minds can't help but compare. So, put yourself in a position where you are less likely to do it, or keep it realistic. It's really hard for me to not compare myself to my friends that live around here. A lot of people rebuilt their homes after Superstorm Sandy back in 2012. Luckily or unluckily, however you want to look at it, we did not have any damage to this home during Superstorm Sandy, so we did not have any upgrades done. We were not living here then, but no upgrades were needed in order to move back in. My friends have much bigger homes now. They're updated. They're gorgeous. I have a kitchen from the 1980s, and old tile floors. I've got windows that really need replacing. We've got a deck that needs a facelift. Do I look at these other beautiful homes and feel jealous? Well, yeah, sometimes. But mostly, I'm just happy to be living here at all. When I start to feel envious of others, I remind myself that there are many people who would love to live in my house, in my neighborhood. I've always been more about the view than how the house looks. And trust me when I say I have lived in some dumps. But we can always make it look a little more pretty, can't we, ladies? Watching television, huge source of comparison. You aren't even consciously aware that you are comparing yourselves to the people you see on TV, but you are. I just watched the series Defending Jacob, another one on Apple. They have the most amazing house in this series, inside and out. I spent so much of their time in the kitchen checking out their appliances and the decor. I didn't set out to do this. It just happened, you know? It's human nature to compare ourselves to others that we see. We don't like it when our coworkers seem to be living a better life than us. But there are so many factors that play into it. Like, we can't just look at a coworker's, house and car and say, why are they living better than me? We work the same job. We should be making the same money. Maybe they already come from money. Maybe their spouse makes a lot of money. Maybe they had saved for 20 years straight and paid cash for their house. It's such a trap to fall into when comparing, but we all do it all the time. And this is when my favorite friend, gratitude, helps so much. Like I said above, when I feel jealous, I remind myself of how happy I am just to be here. I would live in a shack if I had to. Remember me telling you the story of how an Olympic bronze medalist is typically happier than the silver medalist? This is because the silver can't stop kicking himself for not grabbing the gold. But the bronze medalist, just happy to be on the podium. Just happy to be there. It's all in the way we look at things. It's not always easy to remind ourselves of this, but feeling gratitude for what we have goes a long way toward combating this problem. Did you know that studies show those who spend the most time on social media have much lower self-esteem than those who don't spend a majority of time? Studies also show that social media affects your happiness more than your income level. Think about that. I'm going to say it again. Studies show that social media affects your happiness more than your income level. Crazy. So if this is the problem, why don't we just stop? I don't really have the answer to that, but my guess is we're addicted. It's part of instant gratification. That's the society we live in right now. The fact that we need to be doing something at all times. When a commercial comes on TV or we have a moment free at work, what do? We grab our phone and start scrolling through social media. And comparison happens most when we follow these celebrities that we admire and see them looking fabulous while living the most amazing life. It makes us feel less than. I'm not saying you shouldn't follow celebrities, but try to keep things in perspective. There will always be people who have more than you. There are people who have more than the Kardashians, more than the athletes you see, Oprah, and your favorite actors. Keep in mind there are people that are jealous of you as well. Whether it be material things, location, relationships, family issues, what have you. Everyone has problems and issues at times. Nobody has a perfect life. Stop thinking that certain people do. It's just not true. Also keep in mind that most people's social media feeds are their highlight reel. They aren't likely posting of when they sit down with a bag of Doritos. No, I want Doritos. As I mentioned, the number one way to combat this comparison syndrome is to simply be grateful for what you have. Once you are happy with what you have, you won't long for what others have. Not as much, anyway. Keep things in perspective. Be aware of your own blessings and don't ever assume people just have it easy. Oh, it is I wish it were Cocktail Friday, Thursday. Poor Thursday. Nobody likes you Thursday. When you feel envious today, remind yourself of one thing that you have that you would never trade. And you will be well on your way to putting the kibosh on comparison. Now go be a badass. I'm cheering you on.
Thank you for listening to The Hopefulist, hosted by Wendy McClure. For more inspiration, please visit Hopefulist.com. Thanks, and we'll see you tomorrow on The Hopefulist.
Poor Thursday.